Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. I've been really busy over the last few days, but I was reading on a forum somebody's comment, a sort of an assessment of how they thought the Jacob hearing went yesterday. And I thought I'd address a couple of points in that, and perhaps I can take some questions if people would like to ask any, DV 2020, 2021, or 2022 questions. So hi to the first few of you that are coming in. Hi, mate, says Mohammed. Shalom. So that's good too. Okay, so hold your questions. Let me just put that up. Hold your questions. Hey, Tim McPherson. Hi. Hold your questions right now. Let me put that up because you're going to get lots of questions and it's just going to go past, right? So, yeah, just hold your questions for the time being. I will get to questions, but I do want to address this particular point about the Jacob hearing, okay? And then and I'll ignore all the questions from the beginning. And I'll have to start from wherever I'm at because I run out of space. Okay, so the comment that I picked up on that I wanted to address was this. It was written in one of the forums by Zaid USA. If you're on, it'd be interesting to hear from you. The general sort of perception is it was a disappointing hearing. I think these hearings often are disappointing because they're very mundane sometimes. They don't, it's not all explosions and fireworks, right? Then he said a couple of things, that the government attorney wasn't prepared and couldn't answer the judge's questions. Well, she wasn't asked to prepare the information that the judge asked her to prepare, so she wasn't not prepared. She was it just hadn't been asked before, right? So the particular topic was about how the prioritization was working, because Curtis Morrison and co have pointed out there's a lot of visas being issued in certain categories like IR1 and so on, but they're not being issued in DV. And and Judge Chen was saying, okay, what's the percentage? What should the percentage be? And what's the justification for that allocation of time spent? It's an interesting point, but I don't think there had been a request to get the information behind the scenes that was driving that. So I don't think he was unprepared. But this next comment is what was more sort of alarming to me. It says, however, from the onset, I can tell this judge can care less about the pain immigrants are feeling. Actually, it's could care less, but or couldn't care less rather. But there's this perception that the judge needs to make a legal decision based on the empathy that he might or might not feel for the immigrants. That's just not true. We don't expect judges to make decisions based on the pain that someone's feeling. We expect them to make decisions based on the law, right? So frankly, it's silly to take that from from the hearing. But I did want to address things that I thought were interested in the hearing. So there was a point in the hearing where Judge Chen talked about the course of action. Don't forget, this Jacob lawsuit was filed way back in January. At that time, PP 10014 was in place, and essentially the lawsuit was attacking PP 10014 and saying, take down that horrible proclamation and get on with the DV lottery visas. And of course, PP 10014 was taken down by Judge Biden, right? By President Biden. So that proclamation is gone. And so Judge Chen was saying yesterday, your clients may have legitimate reason to be aggrieved, and I think they do. He said, they could do. He seemed sympathetic to the legal perspective that they have a legal right to be pissed off, right? They do, clearly. And he said, but that's a different course of action. That's a problem, right? It's like saying, okay, you go to court asking for relief because somebody did this. You can't then continually ask for all sorts of different relief when the person that you're trying to sue has done something else and something else and something else. You started off complaining about this. If you want to complain and sue them about this and this and this and this, other things they've done, that's different lawsuits. That's what Judge Chen was saying. He said they may have a complaint, but that would be a different course of action, and therefore, cause of action rather, and therefore a different lawsuit is what he's hinting or getting at. So, it is a problem because it's difficult at this point to sort of make the connection to PP 10014. It's gone, right? And so now we have to show all the damage that was done because of PP 10014. Now, I think there's some pretty obvious things that we could point out, and I've emailed Curtis about this. To me, one of the biggest damages that we are seeing in the DV 2021 at the moment is the small number of people who are documentarily qualified, who are ready for scheduling. They gave the numbers yesterday. At just over 13,000 cases are documentarily qualified. 27,000 people that would equate to, roughly. So out of 130,000 people that were selected, only 27,000 after a year of processing, essentially, only 27,000 have been processed. That's bullshit. It's clear that KCC stopped processing documents. It's absolutely clear, right? And what we don't have, we have the documentarily qualified numbers, but I don't think, and I don't think we have this. I've asked Curtis if we do. What we don't have is the number of people that have sent in documents but are waiting for processing. I don't know if KCC even knows. But that's not the number they're reporting to Charlie Oppenheim, which is why the visa bulletin is current. So the whole thing is screwed up because KCC for a long time stopped processing. Their processes for the documents are inefficient and problematic. They have a lousy communication process of the KCC documents team versus the KCC team. The whole thing's a bloody mess. I mean, it's screwed up 2 years worth of lotteries. It really has. This document thing is terrible. And so the reality is we're going to pay a price for damage that was done by PP 10014. The damage was done and it's irreparable harm, meaning it cannot be repaired because we're going to run out of time. And the 27,000 people who are documentarily qualified is nowhere near the number of people that want to be documentarily qualified. When was that work going to get done? And if you really know that's the volume of work you've got to do, then you start thinking, okay, well, I better set up. There's another 50,000 people that I've got to interview here. I better set up some sort of better policy for how those could be processed. Perhaps I could do Zoom interviews. Perhaps I could do. I can have plastic screens and interview people through screens or outdoors. I don't know, but the embassies could figure it out, right? We've all had to figure out how to work remotely. I'm sitting in my home office. I haven't been to my office for over a year. So, why can't they figure out around the world ways of interviewing people safely in these COVID times? So anyway, that's what I wanted to address. The Jacob lawsuit it's not essential that it wins. It's important for the 400 or so people that are on that lawsuit, of course. It's not essential it wins. The mandamus lawsuits are, in a sense, more likely to win, not because the mandamus lawsuits will win a judgment necessarily. They don't have to in order to be useful. The mandamus lawsuit, mandamus means do your job. And so, mandamus lawsuit for the named plaintiffs will probably get action on those individual cases. And often, in order to make the lawsuit go away, the government would quickly do some work in the background on the list of plaintiffs that they have to say, yeah, we're doing all of this work. We've done this and this and this. Here's a list of people. So, as I've said in previous videos, it is very much worth your while being on a lawsuit. And then the other big aspect that we have to deal with is, okay, so the mandamus lawsuits will protect the people who are named plaintiffs. Well, when I say protect, it will help those people to some extent, not a guarantee, but it will help them. But we clearly are going to miss out. We're clearly going to have a very underfilled year. How do we protect the larger number of people? Can we get some sort of preservation of visas for issuance beyond the end of the year, as you know we may have achieved in DV 2020? We don't know for a fact that those 9,095 visas or any more are going to be issued yet. We're still waiting for the Gomez judgment. But but we need something similar to that to work. Otherwise, frankly, this year DV 2021 is going to be a mess, and it will not be prepared. Yeah, Puda, you're right. The tiered approach thing. Puda, I'm noticing you. I was about to respond actually to your original question that got Zaid USA's response to you, and I was typing out a response to you, and I'm thinking, I should just do a video about that. That's literally why I've jumped on the call today. It was all your fault, Puda. So yeah, the government brief explaining the tiered approach, really explaining the tiered approach, but also that's what Curtis is taking from it. But also, Judge was asking, what the percentage split should be between visas and why. Where is that justified in law? And Curtis and team are certainly asking for, where is that justification? The government lawyer said that was according to the preference laid out by the INA, but I agree with Curtis Morris and team on that. That's bullshit. That preference, the way they've laid out the immigrant numbers in general and giving the first preference, the second preference, that's not about preference in terms of processing. That's about allocation of visas. So, visa numbers, etc. That's not to do with processing preference, which is what the government are using to justify their actions right now. MA says, can I send the same information to Charles Cook? Yes, I will do. I don't think this is a news to Curtis Morrison or any of the judges, the lawyers. I'm sure they understand the points, but I don't. It's just I'd like to know whether we've got that piece of discovery. I'm not sure I would trust it, but there you go. Okay, so quick question. When's the next DV lottery starting again? The next entry period will be in October. It's always announced a very short time before the entry period, but it's always in October. So late September, we'll get the dates officially, and it will run during October and early November. That's how it works. Any update about DV 2020? No, there is no update. Gomez is still the case we're waiting for. It's looking more and more likely that we're gonna get Gomez sort of rolled into the 2021 version because Judge Mehta is in charge of both of those cases. And so, whilst we didn't want to wait this long, and Charles Cook talked about this, I think, last week, it's looking more and more likely that July 13th is when we'll get some sort of action on the Gomez case as well as the 2021 case. So Christopher Vernon's asking, OC 1300, with all this KCC business, am I best to hold off submitting the DS260 until more info is available? There's no advantage, Christopher, to you submitting right now. That's the reality, right? Your case number is not going to be current until probably spring of next year, let's say. So there is, if you're concerned about future non-immigrant visas, you could hold off submitting. The one thing I would say is, even in this damaged process, this damaged DV 2021 year, you'll see OC region is actually moving pretty well, is actually issuing pretty well, because largely because they controlled the COVID virus and pandemic. They control that much better in Australia and New Zealand, and they're the two largest countries that are in the OC region, right? So they had a brutal lockdown, but were very effective with it. They've still got quite strict rules in place, but it was effective, and everyone just got on with it. I mean, people drive me mad, You say to people, masks will save lives, and then, oh no, it's against my freedoms to force me to wear a mask or have a vaccination. I just want to punch these people lights out when I read that sort of bullshit or see that sort of bullshit. You know, where's the patriotism? Where's the caring for other people? You know, put your bloody mask on, wash your hands, and take your vaccination. You know, it's a jab in your arm. Anyway, so yes, Christopher, you could hold on for a couple of months and just see how things are going. But overall, I don't see 2022 as bad for OC. There might be more challenges in other regions. We'll see. Mohammed, I understand that one of the winners want now is considered to be another lawsuit in the eyes of the judge, but isn't what happened due to the PP technically a chain reaction, and that's all related? That's my point. I'm trying to say, and Curtis and Abadir are trying to make the case that it is all connected, that it's a chain reaction. I'm trying to give them help in terms of identifying a critical piece of proof that there is a connection. And if you could get the honest answers from KCC about how many people have sent in their documents but not had them processed at all number ranges, it would be an enormous number, I believe, because as you all know, if you're in DV 2021, you're sending in your documents and you're only getting responses if your case number is low, right? What's that all about? We're in May. You know, it's been going on for almost a year. And the reason for that is because they paused processing for a long time. They just stopped processing. And so, yes, the damage is done because of PP 10014 and also the COVID crisis. I think it's important people understand. Judge Mehta last year was saying you can seek relief for something the government has done through the presidential proclamation or animus or whatever else. You can't seek relief, though, for something as unfair and you know, natural, if you like, as the COVID crisis, right? It sucks, the COVID crisis. It killed my mum. It's, you know, it's a horrible thing. It's killed, you know, I work with people whose families are in India, and 3 of my friends have lost their parents over the last few weeks. You know, a friend of mine died. I mean, you know, terrible impacts, right? All very unfair. People shouldn't be dying around the world about this. But is that something you can sue about? No. It's not the government's fault that COVID happened necessarily. I mean, well, Trump could have done things better, but you know, you can't sue for that. But obviously, Trump added on and made it worse, right? So, you know, we have to try and relate things back to PP 10014 as being, as you say, Mohammed, the cause that caused the chain reaction. But that is a difficult case to make, and Judge Chen, I think, isn't buying it. So I'm feeling a bit concerned for the Jacob case because he's not buying it. So Rab, I got this from KCC yesterday. Is it a good sign? Your case number is now current for interview processing. Is it a good sign? Yeah, on my FAQ that you presumably didn't read, you'll see that when you receive the email that says you're current for visa processing, what that means is that they're actively trying to schedule your case right now. A lot of people are getting that, and it might go on for a couple of months because their embassy isn't accepting all of the interviews that they should be accepting. So it's a good sign in one sense. It means you know, they're trying to schedule you, but it doesn't guarantee you an interview, unfortunately. So there you go. Prince Owusu. I'm guessing you're not from the Czech Republic originally. Oh, here we go. I won DV 2022. My wife and 2 daughters live in Ghana. As a result, I should schedule my interview in Ghana or have to invite the family to the Czech Republic. Right. So right now, if I was to answer that question today, you don't give me a case number. I don't know where your case number is, right? And so it's going to be many months before this is going to be good advice. But today, Accra Embassy has not scheduled, as of today, they haven't scheduled even a single interview for DV 2021. And Ghana Embassy has probably about the highest rejection numbers out of all the embassies in the world, partly because there's a lot of fraud in Ghana. And Ghanaians sometimes get pissed off with me for saying that, but there is, right? So let's be honest about it. There is, and so they have a very strict set of policies, which means they reject about 7 cases in 8 in Accra in normal times. And at the moment, they're not interviewing anyone. So to be very honest with you, if you have a chance to be interviewed in any other place other than Accra, you would take it, right? So if you happen to be in the Czech Republic, yes, invite your family to come and interview with you there, because it would make sense. And if they continue to interview no one because of the COVID crisis, then it makes double sense. Okay. Can the mess of KCC be considered as a result of prioritization? I don't know. The whole thing, I mean, there's many factors that have contributed to this mess. I don't know that it's prioritization as such, but they inefficiently prioritized low case numbers even early on. I mean, the way they're processing documents is pathetic. It screwed up 2 years worth of DV lotteries, and it will continue to screw those things up until they fix their processes. I've written to them about it. I could go in there and fix it in a heartbeat, but they're not listening. So there you go. Hanny's for go, we're about 900 plaintiffs. Our final hearing will be on July 13th, so it's unlikely to get a decision before the end of July. So we will see 2NL. So will we see 2NL if we get the positive decision for August and September? Right. So yeah, exactly. So you're correct in saying the last 2NLs for DV 2021 should be sent by the end of July and maybe the first few days of August, because that's what they've been doing just recently. The last 3 or 4 months, they've been sending 2NLs in a few days after the end of the month. Bizarrely, but I think it's because it's taking a bit more effort to coordinate with the embassies in these times. So basically, your point here is why Charles Cook and Co. are asking for a preservation of visas, because in order to get the cases through, the 900 plaintiffs that they've got, they believe that they're not going to have enough time, right? And so they're asking for a preservation of visas. Curtis is asking for that in a different way in his lawsuit. There's different ways of doing that. But as I've mentioned before, although Gomez achieved a preservation of visas, we have not seen the actual release of those visas yet. And that's an important point. So we'll know more on July 13th, partly because that will probably be when the Gomez case is also discussed, as well as the Go case. I suspect it won't be the final hearing, I have to say. You say our final hearing will be on July 13th. I mean, and you rightly say it's likely to get a decision later. Yeah, Judge Mehta sat on the Gomez case for a long time, hasn't he? So I don't know how quickly we're going to get a result and how they're feeling about these things. At some point, we may not see the proactive, bold approach that he took last September. We might see something less active. Do you expect to see some 2NLs being issued this month? Yeah, of course. That's what the process does. I just don't expect there'll be enough. It'll be pathetic. In these times with so many people waiting, to send out less than 1,000 2NLs, it's absolute bullshit. They can do better than that, and they should do better than that. Frustrating. Amin says, I applied in my DS260 with a passport which was expired, and now I have a new passport. Can I tell the consulate interview? They're going to know, because you're going to have to provide those documents, and they will ask you for proof of your unexpired passport that you applied with at the time of entry. You were supposed to apply with an unexpired passport. We have not seen high volume or any number of refusals due to passports yet, bearing in mind that we're seeing very few interviews right now. And the new rule about passports was only implemented for the first time in DV 2021. So we don't know for a fact what the policy will be, whether it will be automatic refusals or not. I've been reading up on the guidance for, it's called the 9FAM document, which is the guidance for consular officers about how they adjudicate cases. And it seems to me they are leaning towards refusing cases that cannot establish a legitimate reason why they did not provide a passport at the time. But I can't say 100% sure. If you're a DV 2022 case, and you haven't mentioned unfortunately, but if you're a DV 2022, my advice would be to wait and see how other cases are handled with, whether the lack of a decent, an unexpired real passport causes instant refusal at the interviews or not. Okay, that's what I would do. Do you see likely we Jacob plaintiffs get any relief? I'm concerned about it, Chris, and I think I covered that earlier. I'm concerned about it, I have to say. Any Ghanaian who has not signed on to the Good Luck case will have himself to blame. Right, the Good Luck case is the new Curtis Morrison lawsuit. They've managed to find a plaintiff that is called Good Luck. The last name is Good Luck, which is a great name. Obviously, they chose that name because it's a great name for a lawsuit, right? But I agree with what Joseph is saying here. Let me just explain again what the lawsuit is possibly going to make Curtis Morrison and team very wealthy, right? They're going to do well out of it. But they've structured the payments in such a way that they really are only going to benefit in a large way if they win, right? So you can't say fairer than that, really. For Africans, you're only going to pay fees if they win the case, if you get your visa and enter into the USA, right? So why wouldn't you be involved in that? Why wouldn't you get on that? So as Joseph is saying, anyone, and you're saying Ghanaian, but really any African in particular, and some of those other countries which have got the reduced fees, no upfront fees, why wouldn't you get on that? Why? I mean, it's beyond me. Some of you are thinking it's not a good idea. I don't know what you're thinking. I've recommended people get on the lawsuit. You're either going to spend $500 if you're in one of those countries where, where you have to pay the fees, right? $500 is not a lot of money for what we're talking about here, but if you win, you're going to pay up to $1,500, or you'll pay another $1,000 if you prepaid the $500, or if you're from Africa, for example, and some of those other countries, Nepal, etc. You'll pay $1,500 in 3 installments once you get to America, once you're earning American money, right? So, you can't say fairer than that. It's not free. I understand it's not free, but it's well structured, and you only pay that extra 1,000 or the 1,500 if you get a green card. A green card is worth a fortune. Okay, so get real, people. Let's think sensibly. We've already lost our opportunities, and God knows why. Don't know that God knows why, but the lawsuit is the only way for a little hope. Okay. Sisse, can I make interview in an ineligible country, US Embassy? Yep, doesn't matter where you interview. Lots of people in the past were interviewing in India, for example, the Nepalese and other people that were perhaps, found it easier to get to India. I wouldn't go there now, for God's sake. You'd be mad to go into India right now where they're having such a crisis with COVID. But yeah, you can go anywhere. It doesn't matter where you interview. London, for example, London Embassy processes a lot of DV cases normally. They've got one scheduled right now. But normally processes cases, and the UK is not eligible. Hesham. What is the expected decision for Go lawsuit from your point of view? Do you think judge will give a positive decision as he did in 2020? I don't know. It's the same judge. He understood the issues then. I think the lawyers have some strong arguments. I think they can win those arguments. But the Go lawsuit and the Good Luck lawsuit, etc., they are mandamus cases primarily, which are about getting some action. They're about causing some action. They're not really about getting a judgment. The judgment aspect of that might be preserving visas. So we'll have to see if that's possible. When are the normal days for receiving 2NLs? Just after the VB is released, which was released a few days ago, there would be 2NLs in the normal time between now and the end of the month. And actually, just over the last few months, it's continued into the beginning of the following month as well. But you'll find different embassies will get their 2NLs on different days. It's not two large batches at the moment because of the way that things are being scheduled. You'll find, maybe 5 or 6 consulates will get their 2NLs on one day, and then another day it'll be another 10 consulates or whatever. It'll be like that, a bit, spread out over a few days. Hybrid DV2144XXX. South Africa not open. Should I change my interview to Zimbabwe? If anyone can change their interview location to an open embassy, that's great. But generally, most of the embassies are not accepting those sort of changes because they are focused instead on local cases, right? So they're not accepting cases from out of the area typically. So so there you go. Phantom saying KCC was a mess well before prioritization. I tend to agree with that. This document procedure thing has been a mess for a couple of years. Dr. Mohammed Anmar, I've been selected for DV 2022. Case number is AS48XX. Say 48XX or 4XXX. Any impression? What's the next step after filing DS260? Okay, any impression. It's a pretty good number. It's not high. What's the next step after filing DS260? Wait a few weeks. See if you're invited to send your documents. If you're not invited to send your documents, send them anyway after a few weeks. You can read what documents to send. If you Google the words Brit Simon document procedure, and you'll get the information. Is the American Embassy in Cameroon open for interview? I don't know. Have a look at savediversityvisa.org. Savediversityvisa.org, and you can check it out there. I don't track every single embassy all the time, right? So you could check that. Government has today filed a motion to dismiss the Go case, so it means they will not process. No, I mean the government's always going to try and dismiss the case. I mean that's that's what they do. The lawyers act like lawyers. That's what they do. So don't worry about that. Manu Ishaga, please. So when is DV 2022 likely to get interviewed? Will they add the numbers to the 80,000 visas? Right. The suggestion of President Biden to increase the visas from 55,000 to 80,000 was just a suggestion. It's not law. And if it did become law, it wouldn't affect DV 2022 and probably not DV 2023 or beyond. So forget the 80,000. That's not a real number. Forget you ever heard it. It's not important right now. It's 55,000 visas is what you got. When will 2022 interviews start? They'll start in October, not before then. Doesn't matter how early you submit your DS260. They'll only start in October, and they'll continue until September 30th of next year. And your interview will be based largely on your case number, right? So if you've got a high case number, no matter when you submit your DS260 and documents, you'll wait for your case number. That's the way it works. Do you advise us to join the Curtis lawsuit? Is there any chance to win for a high case number? Yes, I advise you to consider joining a lawsuit. The case number doesn't really matter. Everyone's current. There's no real impact of high case numbers now. What's the next step should be taken after submitting DS260? And I'm in USA and the case is at MVC nowadays. Okay, Mo, you have to be clear with me and everybody. You have to tell me your year, region, and case number. I don't know how to answer this question because I don't know whether you're DV 2021, 22, what the timeline is. And if you are going to ask questions, you have to be a bit more clear. If you're in the USA now, you could consider adjustment of status if you're on a DV 2021 case, but you'd need to file that fairly quickly. But anyway, Mo, make it more clear so I can answer you better. Gorky, do you think that in order to show some good, the government will process some cases before the Go hearing? Still stuck at KCC? Yeah, they're still processing cases. I mean, I see the lawyers sometimes say, oh, we've had some Go cases scheduled. It's not because anything has happened in the lawsuit necessarily. It's because the government are still making some progress. This is part of their lawyers' point that they are making some progress, but it's not fast enough. So It's by no means fast enough to issue anything like 55,000 visas. We talked about this, Prince, already. You're repeating question. Don't like that. Dude is 10. Brit, do we need to send the I-135, I-134 somewhere before the interview, or just bring a copy to the interview? You take it to the interview, and you take it along with the W-2 or the 1040 of the sponsor. The W-2 is an annual payment, amount of money someone receives by wages. The 1040 is a tax report. So both the W-2 and the 1040, they're both types of annual tax reports. So you need that. You need recent pay slips, right? Proof that someone is still working right before the interview, and photo ID of the sponsor. Okay, you need all those things in support of the I-134. You don't send it anywhere. You don't have to have it legitimized or authorized or anything else like that. The sponsor downloads the form, fills it out, scans it, emails to you along with those documents I just mentioned. Yusuf, I did not win the 2022 lottery, just like 20 million other people. Is there any possibility of my status changing if I check it again in the month of August this year? Not if you check in August, but in some years there's what I call a second draw, which is like a small number of additional applicants being added, to the winners list, right? The reason that happens if they underselect quite a lot, underselect in the first draw. So let's say they only draw 80,000 people. They might add another 10,000 people, right? And that would happen, if it does happen, that would happen in September, possibly October. So you should check again in October, not in August. There's no chance of it changing between now and August. Okay. Max Voitko, I see you on my Twitter feed occasionally. You ask me questions there. Does the Curtis Morrison big lawsuit make sense for a high case number? I think I mentioned, Max, doesn't make any difference now what your case number is. All cases are current. So yeah, it makes sense. Lewis, do I need to mention anything in the body of the email apart from the attached files? No, nothing at all. Again, the information's on my blog. And the only thing you have to put in there is identifying your case number correctly. Again, full details in my blog. My case number says at MVC, but I don't have a case number from them to enter on SEAC. I called them and they said they have to contact KCC. What could be the problem? KCC has not responded to phone calls or emails. Well, the first problem, Avinash, is that you think, well, you haven't read my fact. You haven't listened to what I said. I keep telling people, and I say on my blog, ignore this MVC status. Your case is not, if you're a DV lottery case, your case is not at MVC and never has been and never will be. But that's the starting status that they happen to mark cases with before they schedule any interview for that case. So all cases are at MVC, but they're not at MVC. Okay, so ignore everything it says and everything it says under the MVC thing. That's the first thing. KCC are not responding. Yes and no, because they're useless at the moment. They have not been switching the phones on. I mean, it's been bad. You have to keep on trying. If you're DV 2021, well, you must be, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing your case status. Unfortunately, KCC are going to let a lot of people down. If you've got a low case number and you're ready for scheduling, you might have a chance of interview. But if you are not ready for scheduling, it's not looking good. Kenani Prince, I asked KCC about a doc satisfier. Don't know what that means. The response was, you should have received, or you should soon receive. Oh, okay. You asked if they were satisfied with your documents, and then they sent you a letter saying you will soon receive an email asking for documents, right? That means they're satisfied? No, it doesn't mean they're satisfied. But here's what happens. I've been telling people for some months now to send documents, whether you've been asked for documents or not. And what I think happens, and I've explained this on a couple of videos, is I think what happens is that when they get your documents and they start processing your documents, they open a file for you in their documents system. And if I'm a programmer, essentially, I'm an enterprise architect, but I'm a programmer at heart, right? If I was writing that system, I would probably have programmed the system when I open a file to send an email saying you're going to soon get an email to ask you for documents, right? And so it's a standard email that's going to be sent out, probably automatically, because they've opened a file. That's my suspicion. And they opened a file because you sent documents and because they started looking at them. It doesn't mean that they've processed your documents, but it's a good thing that they've opened the file. Okay, so that might be the explanation for what you've received. Okay, let's get through here. KCC response time to emails is now more than 25 days. There's been other people who've had response in a few days, right? KCC are operating very erratically. People are asking me to predict how long does it take to get my 2NL? How long does it take to get my interview? How long does it take to get a response? I don't predict any of that right now because nothing is predictable. It's all just a mess. Carlos Mora. I was selected for DV 2022 as Venezuelan, but I'm applying for Argentina's citizenship. Bienvenido a Argentina. If I become an Argentinian citizen, will that be a problem? No, it wouldn't be a problem. No, it doesn't make any difference. You would obviously still have to show your, your original Venezuelan citizenship, your Venezuelan birth certificate, and that sort of thing, right? But you would then show the paperwork, the legalization of your citizenship to Argentina. How many citizenships do you want? You can get an American one soon. Sir, I have emergency. KCC sent me wrong place of interview. What can I do? Okay, so Ahmed, you've been scheduled at Embassy A, and you wanted to be scheduled at Embassy B. Okay, I don't know how that's happened, but if it has happened, there's a couple of things you can do. You can contact KCC and you can ask them to change for you. That might work, but it probably won't work. The other thing you can do is to contact Embassy B, where you want to be interviewed, and say, will you interview my case, right? Will you, if I can get my case transferred to you? If they say yes, then you contact Embassy A, who've got your case, if they've scheduled you there, and you ask Embassy A to send it to Embassy B, right? That's how you do it. Yeah, that's how things work. That is probably what you'll have to do. KCC, in some cases, rarely will fix it, but it's very rare, and it normally causes delays. So the best thing is to talk to both the embassies, as I mentioned. Okay. Jose Luis says your embassy has assigned cases with higher SEN than mine. Submit data. The SEAC data of those assigned is from October, November 2020. It seems KCC are going according to the submit date. Could it be? No, it couldn't be that. The submit date is the date that you enter the lottery. Okay, so that is not important from the point of view of your selection or anything else. They're not going by that. They're going by something else. We don't know what they're going by. Once all cases are current, they don't have to stay in number order, and so they could process another case that they processed before you. It's a bit weird though, because let's say you submitted your case a week before somebody else submitted their case, but perhaps their case, when I say submitted, I mean DS260 submitted, not the original entry into the lottery, right? Which is what that submit date means. So let's say somebody else sends their DS260 and documents in after you, but for whatever reason, their process is finished before you. That might mean that they're earlier, that they're ready for scheduling before you, and perhaps they're interviewing based on that. Now, it's kind of woolly. It doesn't really justify what I see sometimes, that they do some other stuff. If Sweshi is on, he's probably asleep, but there's a regular watcher that comes on who has found that treatment hasn't worked exactly that way it's supposed to for him, and so there are anomalies. So it's just a weird thing. The way they're scheduling some cases, it's a weird thing. We don't really understand it. I have no proof of how they're working that or justification for that. Razine, good afternoon, sir. How can we do DV 2021 save our opportunity? We're working on it. Please, is there any advice, or is there anything that could save a chance through the courts? Well, we're trying through the courts, and there is a lawsuit, and I'm recommending that you join the lawsuit. So do what I've recommended, right? And the lawyers are working on it, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's going to be a happy ending for most people in this year, unless we can win, substantially in some of the lawsuits. I don't think it's going to go well. So there you go. I'm 2022 AS13XXX. Can I fill the DS260 now or wait for the newborn baby? It comes in 2 months later. Yeah, wait for the baby. There's no point in you rushing when your case number is not going to be current until probably middle of next year. It's easier. Just wait for the baby to be born, get the documents of the baby, submit your DS260s for yourselves and the baby at that time. Okay. Francis, we've won this lottery twice, 2017 and 2021, with case numbers 40,891 for 2017, which got current, didn't it? I thought that got current. And 23, respectively, still no hope. We're very frustrated. Yeah, that sucks. 40,891, that's not the year they reverted back to 39,500, is it? I can't remember exactly, but I thought that number got current. But anyway, yeah, it sucks. Winning this lottery is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Some people do win it twice, and that's amazing, right? It should be a wonderful thing. But 2021, yeah, sucks. So I'm sorry about that. How do you prove you're stateless? Well, not having a passport. Okay, certain people are stateless, and there's a definition and there's a guide, and I was reading that guide the other day, which is the guide for consular officers. It's not really. There is an aspect of being, if you're a refugee in another country, and one of your fears is the government of that other country trying to kill you or something like that. In that situation, you may not have up-to-date passport because you can't apply for the passport from your original country, because that would reveal to them, your address and everything else, and you don't want to give them that information. And you're a legitimate refugee; you've been accepted as a refugee in some other country. That's one of the legitimate excuses that I believe they will accept. Statelessness, apart from that, is a little bit difficult. There are a few countries around the world where political situations mean that some people are stateless. But you can't be in a normal country which has no problems, and you're not a refugee, and your passport was just expired, and you thought, oh, I'll deal with that later. I'll enter with an unexpired with a saying I don't have a passport, or I'm going to claim to be from a communist country, and you're actually from Paris or something, you're from France. That's not going to work, right? They're going to disqualify those sort of cases. So give me some better information, I'll give you a better answer. Ahmed, the case number is current and I'm participating in a lawsuit. Did not receive confirmation letter or send the documents. Why didn't you send the documents? I've been saying for months, send the bloody documents. Send the documents. Once I win the case to the plaintiffs, will I be determined for this visa interview? You will have a better chance if the lawsuit can push your case, but you have to send the bloody documents. Don't wait to be asked for the documents. Come on. Send the bloody documents, right? Because you can't be processed. Let's say the lawsuit, achieves process for people, and you haven't sent the documents in. The government can legitimately say, well, we can't schedule him because he didn't send us the documents, and that's your fault. Nobody else's fault, your fault, because you're not listening. I've been saying this for 6 months. So, send the documents. Otherwise, you're not going to have a chance, and being in the lawsuit is, frankly, a waste of time unless you're going to actually push your case. Okay? Beckline, good evening, sir. Is military a qualified work experience? And a military deserter can hinder Z. Okay. So you're trying to say you want to qualify for work experience through being in the military, but you deserted the military, so you're not it's not very good work experience, is it? Let's be honest. It's like saying I'm an accountant, but I can't count. So no, I don't. No, in terms, I'm sorry. You know, I've got the sense of humor of a 10-year-old, so I'm sorry, that just tickled me. But is military work experience that would be at the level that would be suitable for the DV lottery program? It's an interesting question. If you read my blog, go to my blog and or Google the word Brit Simon work experience, and you'll come up with a document that explains how to check your work experience against something called the ONET database. And you need to be in, there's a certain level of work experience. It's not just that you've been working making bread or something. That's a good job, but it's not the work experience that they're looking for. They're looking for someone who's in a senior position, a position that requires training or education of a certain level in order to perform that work normally. And so if they were to consider some military experience, it would probably be an officer level role in the military that they would consider. But have a look, go through my blog and have a look. You can answer the question that way. F41XXX for DV 2022. When is it favorable for me to apply for the DS260? Okay, so people can send in the DS260 now, or they can wait for a little while. That's up to you, right? You can wait for a few months. Some people will be submitting the DS260 as late as probably April or perhaps even May of next year. I don't advise waiting too late, but you can wait for a while, right? And for some people that don't want to have an early interview, for example, it might be better to wait, or if you're concerned that your case number is too high. In your particular case, 41XXX might be okay, might not be too high. We don't know anything about the case numbers yet for DV 2022. But you can apply for it now, or you can wait a couple of months. You know, that's basically the answer. Anton, by the way, CAC website for DS260 access seems to be broken for login these days. Do they able to process document scans, I wonder? Anton, at the very beginning, just after the results for DV 2022 was announced, the SEAC DS260 system did seem to be overwhelmed, right? But I don't think it is now. I don't think it's broken now. And so if you're still having problems, it might mean that you've got connection issues, internet connectivity issues. It could be browser issues. You should change your browser, right? Use a different browser. If you're using Chrome, try Internet Explorer, or vice versa, you know, do a different browser. But also, particularly, make sure you've got the right information. If you screwed up when you were entering your birth date and you're entering the birth date in your DS260 form, it will come back with an error. And there is a way of checking your birth date, which I've shown in a video I published 3 or 4 weeks ago on my YouTube channel. So you can have a look at that video to see. The video is called DS260 Document Submission Tips. And in there, I show how you can prove what birth date you actually entered, whether you've got the right birth date, and other information as well. So check that video. Don't just endlessly try to enter your DS260, because eventually you will block it and you'll screw yourself up, and then you have to go to the embassy to unblock it. No, it's a mess. So so if you're, you know, don't try 100 times to try and get into your form. Check out that video, please, and watch what I'm saying there. Carlos, I already answered your question. Let's see. AF 26,000 in DV 2022 is a good number. Except interview tourists. There's not a tourist interview, but it's too early to say. You know, AF 26,000 is not going to get an interview in 2021. That I'm clear about, right? It's not going to be in 2021. It's going to be 2022. That's months away. So I don't know how the COVID crisis is going to be affecting your particular embassy in several months' time. It's too early for me to predict what's going to be an impact there. Capo, I'm nearly at an hour here. So Capo, do we have any chance of getting the interview with case number 18,000? Okay, so you've made the classic mistake of telling me a number without telling me the region or the year. So I have no freaking idea what your number means. Doesn't mean anything to me. It could be a high case number in Asia or a low case number in EU and Africa, and it could be in either year. So, that was a waste of time. That's the sort of afternoon I'm having. Puda, sorry, I'm just watching your responses regarding my question. It's all your fault. Puda. Who's saying that? Watching your response. Oh, I see. Yeah. I didn't mean it that way. I do love that photo of you, Puda. It's a great photo. But yeah, it's all your fault. Sam, I registered the lawsuit and I paid the fees. How can I make sure that if the fees arrive to the right person, and if it well, just ask the lawyers. Why are you asking me? You can check with the lawyers. You can email them. If the judge issued a decision in favor of the plaintiffs in August or September and the number was large, for example, 8,000, most of them would not DQ, how would this be handled? It would still be a mess, which is why it might become important to have visas preserved. The lawyers will say, by the way, and I think this is it's either naive of them or disingenuous, I'm not sure which, but they will say, well, even if look at 2020, we've got 7,000 visas issued in the last few weeks of the year. From September 4th to September 30th, there were nearly 7,000 visas issued. That is true, but it is not because KCC made that happen. The lawsuit gave the opportunity for all the embassies to schedule cases which had previously been cancelled in March and April and May. So those cases were sitting at the embassy ready to be served, and that's exactly what the embassies did. So we had embassies all around the world suddenly jump on those cases that were previously cancelled. We had 2.5 months worth of processing in terms of the March, April, May cases, and they were suddenly processed, right? They were suddenly interviewed because they had already been sent to the embassy. In terms of new 2NLs sent out, or new cases actually sent out by KCC in that final 3 weeks, that wasn't that many. That was the smaller part of that 7,000, much smaller part. I would suspect about 1,500 cases. So if we didn't get some sort of decision until very late in the game, we would not see thousands and thousands of cases being suddenly issued. And of course, we've still got this prioritization thing. We've still got the COVID limitations. We need more time if we're to get enough cases through. That's the reality. Do I think 22 is going to be any better than 21? I don't know. How's the COVID crisis going to go over the next few months? I have no idea. Do you? I don't know. There are many countries that are not implementing the vaccination programs. That's not going to go well. The COVID virus itself mutates. If it gets into enough people, it mutates. And so, maybe the vaccination programs will be less effective against that mutation. Who knows? Those things are what are important. And I can't predict the future about that. So at the moment, I can't say anything about 2022. Do interview chances relate to embassy? Yes, because if your embassy is not working, that's that. Your $15.99 for DV 2021, again, I have no idea what that means. I explain why. Do you think the pandemic will influence 2022? Yes, I just said why. Manu, case number is 57,000 for 2022. Okay, 57,000 I know is too high for an EU region and AS region, so I'm going to guess it's Africa region, but it certainly helps if you let me know. Is there a hope for me to be interviewed? I don't know, because I don't know how things are going to go in 2022. Tewodros Temede. Okay, 2 questions. 1, what should someone do if they get the child after they apply for DV? They put the child on the form, right? It's in my FAQ on my website. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting married after the win, or getting a baby after the win. It doesn't risk your case at all. People have babies. We're humans, right? So that's fine. You just add the baby. When you add the baby to your own DS-260, and you create a DS-260 for the baby as well. Okay. 2, what should someone do if he had a child by the time he applied and unfortunately didn't? Okay, so we go from we go from okay, the first question was if you have a baby after the entry, before the win or after the win or whatever, that's fine, no problem. If on the other hand you have the baby before the entry and you didn't include the baby on the form, then you will be disqualified. 100% certain you will be disqualified. There's no way to fix it. And it made it very clear in the entry process. So, talk about a complete about face. So that's the reality. I don't understand why people don't do this. I read something the other day. Someone didn't take a photo of the baby. They didn't enter the baby because they couldn't get a photo of the baby. I've explained how to do that. You stand above the baby on a white sheet or something, and you take a photo from above the baby. You can take a baby at 1 day old. You don't need to wait till the baby's 17 years old to take a photo, right? So it's completely, there's no excuse. If you didn't include the baby on the form, you will be disqualified, and you deserve to be disqualified. The instructions were clear. Britt, is the DS540 relevant? If you've no, they don't use the 5540 anymore. You can't even download it from the website. It's not used anymore. When can we expect the cancellation of PP101143? Any news or possibilities? It doesn't apply to DV lottery candidates anymore, so I don't care about it. So I don't know. I'm not keeping up with news about it because I only think about DV lottery. So for DV lottery, it doesn't impact you. Carlos, you keep asking the same question. Hind, no. Maxi, okay. Seems like Maxi in the EU is less than 30,000 this year. Do you think it's a good or a bad sign, or should we just wait for the SEAC data to see the amount of holes? Okay, so this is a good question. The way we find out about the data and about the number of selectees, etc., is we find out little bits of information along the way. What will happen over the next 2, maybe 3 visa bulletins, at some point they will publish the number of selectees per country, and we can add them up and we can see how many cases there are, how many people are selected in Europe and Africa and Asia and so on, and then also globally. Basically, if that number is less than 100,000 globally, it's a pretty good sign for the year, right? Because more than 100,000 is too many people. Less than 100,000 is good. That's that's a good thing. Now, we are on a and I should then explain. So that's going to be in the visa bulletin. Normally, it's the July, August, sometimes the September visa bulletin when we get that one, right? Okay, so that's what we'll know. Then on the 1st of January next year, we'll get this complete SEAC data, which will give us every single case. But even before we get the SEAC data, I can estimate pretty well based on the number of cases, the number of the high case numbers that we think there are for the regions. I can estimate pretty well, how things are looking, and then we get confirmation of that in January. So it's a little bit of a process to get there. Of course, though, what we don't know is what's going to happen with COVID, embassy closures, that sort of thing, and all of that stuff. We don't know how that's going to affect things. So I can't predict that next year we'll process as many cases as they should do. So we'll have to see how that goes. The current nightmare we're having with document processing probably means that regions will go current before they should do, as we saw in DV 2021. We shouldn't be current right now. We are, and that's a mistake, and it's a mistake because of the document processing situation. So that could continue into next year, but if it continues, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's actually a bad thing. It means it's people are not getting their documents through the system. That's not because they don't want to process through the system. It's because KCC is screwing it up. Okay. It's 20th of May. There should be some 2NLs these days. Why are there not sending 2NLs? There's no logical reason to say there should be some 2NLs. Right? It's not true. No point complaining about something that's not the truth. I would like to add some work experience and a lesser previous university degree to my DS260. Would you think that if I unlock the form, it will negatively affect my case? again, I wish you'd put whether you're DV 2021, 22, what the region is, what the case number is. It helps. Basically, unlocking a DS260 doesn't normally affect the processing of the case. But if you're a DV 2021 right now, I would not be unlocking the DS260 if I were you. Okay, unless there's something very serious in that you need to correct. But right now, don't unlock it. If you're DV 2022, then go ahead, unlock it. Doesn't make any difference. Your DV winner 2021 case number is AF32X. What's the next step? What do you mean the next step? Do you really mean you're 2021? I suspect you're probably a 2022, because if you haven't taken the next step by now, and you're a DV 2021, then that's a problem. The process is you submit your DS260. Sometime later, you submit your documents. You wait to be current. You have your interview. You move to America. That's roughly the process, right? So I, you've got to be a little bit more clear with me for me to give you a better answer, frankly. Okay, I'm just reading through. I'm going to take a few more questions and then we'll call it a day. Are you aware of any cases who got their documents processed but didn't get the email? The email ready for scheduling? Is that the email you mean? What email? My number is 2021 AS 10K. Interview to be in Cairo. Higher case numbers got the email. What email? I don't know what email. Do you mean the 2NL? If you could be a bit more clear, that would be great. So I don't know what you mean. Akaki himself. I saw you on. What was I on the other day? I was listening to Charles Cook's live session, I think, and I saw your name. There you go. Do you think the Go case, Charles Cook, will be consolidated with the Morrison lawsuit? What impact will that cause for Go plaintiffs? I don't know. I don't know. Can't guess it. To God be the glory. That's a strange thing to say to an atheist, but okay. Mahmoud Ahmed, I did want to know if I will need a bank statement with a specific amount of money in my bank or not. On my blog, I've got an article which is something like all you ever wanted to know about the I-134, and it discusses the public charge concerns and how you overcome the concern of public charge, which is a legitimate thing that is something you have to satisfy the CO about. In general, if you show personal savings, you have to show an amount of money, that would be enough to cover you in the USA. I always say in the past, I've said $10,000 per person would be the amount of money you should show. It could be more than that. A much safer way is to get an I-134 from someone in the USA who is prepared to be your financial supporter. So that's usually a safer way to do it. Okay. I can see a bunch of questions by Ethio News Channel, but you've repeated the damn thing many, many times. I wish you wouldn't do that, but okay, I'll answer this. I'm one of the winners, and please don't repeat questions over and over again. It just pisses everyone off, including me. But I'll answer this question one time. I'm one of the winners of the DV 2022 lottery. Currently, I'm in China for education, but this year I'll finish school and return to Africa. Will this be a problem? No. Unfortunately, your question didn't give any real details, like your case number, to give me some idea of timing or anything else like that. But I can't see a problem from being in China, if that's what you mean. No, not a problem. What if somebody applies as single in the entry but got engaged? Can they put the fiance on the DS260, not 269, or can they apply as single? Being engaged is not a legitimate status to add your fiance. You have to get married in order to add your spouse, your wife or your husband to your DS260. So if you don't get married, no, you can't add your spouse. So go ahead and get married, and then you can add her or him. What if somebody, just did that one. Another person repeating questions. Lil Pip, I really don't want to get the flu vaccine. Is there any way to bypass getting it? How does the process work? Oh, God. I don't want to go on a rant, but, what are you worried about? Being tracked by Bill Gates? Magnetic arm and all that? honestly, there's some bullshit going around about the vaccines. Thanks to vaccines, we're all not dying of smallpox and everything else. Vaccines are safe. The process for this particular vaccine, the mRNA, people say it was developed so quickly and it wasn't tested. Bullshit. It took 30 years to develop the process that transports the vaccine into your body. Vaccinations have been around for 100 years. The process is well understood. It was just developed on a 30-year-old process of testing that got us here, and then it was tested on a couple of 100,000 people. And in America alone, there are 120 million people who've been vaccinated, and people are not dropping dead or setting off airport X-ray systems because they're walking around with some chip in them. So I'm vaccinated, my wife is vaccinated, my 12-year-old child is vaccinated, because vaccinations are a natural, a scientific way of leveraging your body's natural ability to fight viruses. What are you worried about? Anyway, there you go. Wasim, AF 15,000 2022, please advise where to get my interview, Egypt or Philippines, because I need KCC to open my file again. How many days before KCC send for the interview? Okay. The interviews are scheduled based on where you live today. It doesn't matter if you're from Egypt, but you happen to be living in the Philippines, for example, then you would typically have your interview there in the Philippines. You don't need to travel for your interview. The interview schedules are normally sent around about 6 weeks, roughly, before the interview actually takes place. So, in other words, right now we're in May, and right now, very shortly in the next few days, they'll be sending 2 NLs for interviews in July. That's the rough timeline that you normally get. And during that interim period, you get some time to gather your documentation, have the medical, have whatever vaccinations you need for the medical, and so on. That's what you're supposed to do. Okay. Picaflor, what a lovely name. It's like Pikachu. Hi, sir. I got number AS 17,000 DV 2022. He's like, I need to wait for current. Would it be better to fill in the DS260 ASAP? Again, yeah, AS 17,000 in 2022 is not going to be current until probably summer of 2022. So you don't need to fill in your DS260 in the next few days or even the next few weeks. You can wait a few months, and it wouldn't make any difference at all to your case. Okay. Okay, a couple more questions then. I'm DB 2021, case number near EU 7000. Would you advise? Yeah, I've said it a million times during the lawsuit. I don't know. What do I have to say? I'll repeat again. No update about DB 2020. We're waiting for the Gomez case, and there's no sort of set date on when they'll finish that. How will they prioritize cases for adjudication after the mandamus lawsuit starts hearing? We don't know. We have no idea. Right? We have to wait and see what happens. This is another one. How long will it take them to get it open? I don't know, because nothing's working properly at the moment. So normally it takes 2 days to 2 weeks, roughly. But what it's taking at the moment, I don't know. How many visas were issued in DV 2020? Yeah, there was 20,000, give or take a few, and 7,000 of those were issued in the last 3 weeks of the program, because we sued the government under the Gomez, Acker, Mohammed, Fongjong cases, etc. And so, yeah, it was a hectic last 3 weeks. But up until September the 4th, they'd only processed 13,000 cases or so. There were an additional, I think it was about 1,000 additional people, maybe 1,000, that did adjustment of status in that year as well. So maybe 21,000 people all told. There you go. You're welcome, Ahmet. Thank you for that, saying thank you. Okay, so this is an interesting one, Michelle Jin. Your 2022 OC24XX, is it a good number? What's your prediction of the interview time, June 2022? Also, should I fill in DS260? Your prediction on date may be about right. It's not a great number. It's probably towards the tail end. I think OC numbers are probably going to end between 2,500 and 3,000. Probably the highest number I've heard of is 2,500. So you're at the back of the line. But OC has a way of not being over-selected. People in the Oceania region don't always go for the cases. They don't proceed with the case, etc. So somehow or other, you probably would be okay. We'll have to wait and see how many selectees there actually are. There's roughly about 850 visas available for Oceania this year. So we'll see. And there are not, by the way, if your number was 2,400 exactly, there are not 2,399 cases in front of you. That's not how it works. There are gaps in between the cases. So don't worry about that necessarily. Let me just answer another similar question for Africa. AF 2022 AF 33,000, probably not a very high number. Does it stand a good chance? We'll have to wait and see how processing goes and what happens with the COVID crisis in Africa, right? It could get worse there. This is an interesting one too. Just another one on the same topic since we're covering regions. This is an Asia one, 30,000 in DV 2022. Do I stand a chance of getting processed? Be completing a university degree in 2022. Okay, let me answer the first one first. It's too early for me to say whether that case number, which is probably high, has a chance in DV 2022. We have to see the numbers. We have to see how many people have been selected, etc. But bearing in mind that cases in Yemen, Iran, previously banned cases, they're now able to process their cases. There are around about 8,500 visas available for Asia. Nepal normally take around about 3,500 of those 8,500, and Iran normally take around about 2,000 of the 8,500. So if you're not in Iran or Nepal and you're in some other country in Asia, there's probably only 3,000 visas left for people in those countries, other countries. That's not a lot. So could they get to the AS 30,000? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But the mere fact that there is a number of AS 30,000 is a little scary, to be honest. That means that maybe there's quite a lot of selectees in Asia, which would be a problem because of there's no more Muslim ban, right? Which is a good thing, but it means that a lot more people can process their cases. Okay. Sophia Pantoja, just because I love your name. Your name is the same as my daughter's name, so and I think you're from Venezuela, I think, aren't you, Sophia? I think you've asked me questions before. How Curtis will deal with so many plaintiffs in the Good Luck versus Biden case for small regions like SA. Could there be more plaintiff than quota? Yeah, I emailed Curtis about this. He doesn't think that's a problem. He doesn't think the big lawsuit is going to have many, many thousands of participants. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't think there's any concern at all that we'll be maxing out visa numbers in any region. There's no way. Maybe Oceania might hit a limit, but nowhere else. Not South America, not Asia, not Africa. There's just no way we've got enough time to process that number of cases. Okay. Okay, Larry's asking, you were illegal in France in 2005. Can that make a problem in your case? It depends on your police certificate. If that shows that you were arrested, and if they ascertained that, it depends on the type of crime that you committed. Basically, crimes become a problem when they are crimes of moral turpitude. It's a legal term that is used in immigration, a crime of moral turpitude. And crimes against the state, such as immigration laws, can be considered a crime of moral turpitude, but it has to be somewhat serious. So not the general sort of overstay thing, and then you get your hands slapped and you go home. Not like that. It depends whether it got more serious than that. So it's difficult for me to be precise about that. But you'll have to wait and see. But Curtis. There you go. Curtis is Curtis-ski. I wonder if that's Curtis or whether it's just a photo. I don't think it's the real Curtis, but you sound like it. It says, we already have over 4K DV selectees and good luck plaintiffs. I think the more the better. That's interesting, Curtis. So you were just listening. So I had emailed you, as you know, Curtis, saying, is it going to be a problem? And your response was, at that time, I think you only had 1,000 or maybe 2,000 plaintiffs. Your response was you didn't think there was a problem. And at 4,000, it shouldn't be a problem, right? I don't think that's a problem. But I'm encouraging people to get on your lawsuit, Curtis. Let's say there were 10,000, right? And this was, Sophia was asking the question, I think, that you are following up on. So to Sophia's point, let's say there's 10,000, not so much from a regional quota point of view, but more from the point of view of just the processing. At some point, if 50,000 people got in your lawsuit, good luck to you, by the way, if that happened, but there wouldn't be enough time. Then it becomes a matter of how long can we preserve visas for? Can we get a similar sort of preservation of visas? Because there's not going to be enough time otherwise. So that part of your lawsuit is then going to become more important. Beautiful tie, by the way. Love the dicky bow on the hearing yesterday. You look very dapper as usual. You and Abadir always cut a fine look, and you have a beautiful co-attorney, I have to say. And very smart too. Anyway, so good luck to all of you. But yeah, 4K DV selectees as good luck plaintiffs. That's amazing. It really is going to be the big lawsuit. So good luck. Mac and we have Mr. Good Luck, Maxwell Good Luck. Fantastic. Are you sitting in a room with Curtis? What's going on here? So you are the good luck that is the good luck versus Biden lawsuit. Fantastic. Congratulations, and you got a good legal team behind you. This is so since if Curtis is still listening, can Good Luck v. Biden case reserve visas for plaintiffs even if the number is high? Curtis probably wasn't on earlier, but what I've said was it doesn't matter anymore that your case number is high because all case numbers are current. So Curtis and team can achieve the same thing for a high case number that they can achieve for a low case number. It doesn't matter. It is going to be important that you've sent in your documents. I know that wasn't a requirement of Curtis's lawsuit, but you need to have sent them in. In September last year, we saw cases where the government couldn't find the documents, but all of a sudden, once they were dealing with a named plaintiff, they suddenly found the documents, right? And we'll probably see the same thing happen again this time. But it's important that you have done what you should have done in order to make Curtis's life a little bit easier. Don't get him to get you help on your lawsuit, and then you say, "Oh, I don't have my police certificate, and I've never sent in the documents." Send the bloody documents, right? It is really Curtis Ski says it really is me. That's awesome. Yeah, I did doubt it at first. You're right. Ghana Embassy will surely accept DV cases next month. I hope you're right, Maxwell. Ghana are a nightmare, frankly. I mean, yeah, for lots of reasons they're bad. Their refusal rate is through the sky, as I've mentioned before and earlier on this call. Since Curtis is possibly still listening, can 2021 winner, can someone with a high case number join the lawsuit? Yes, absolutely. That's what I've just said. It doesn't matter that your case number is high. And if you're in Africa, just while Curtis is potentially listening, if you're in Africa, and Curtis has made it so easy for you to join, if you're in Africa or Nepal or some of the other countries that he's mentioned, he's made it easy for you. What are you waiting for, right? Somebody earlier from Ghana said, if you don't join the good luck case, then it's on your own head. It's your own stupid fault. Absolutely right. I mean, he's made it easy. you'll pay later in 3 installments in America. By that time, you can go and find a job to find $500 per month for the first 3 months or whatever. You can, you can throw a rock and find a job earning $500 a month. It's easy to earn money over here. It might seem like a lot of money if you're in Africa. $1,500 spread over 3 months might seem like a lot of money there, but don't forget, you're only going to pay it if you've come to America, and in America, that's not a lot of money. So get on with it. Okay, so I saw the word Southend. I used to live near Southend in the UK, so let me just ask this question quickly. I have a high case number like 27,000 Southend. Maybe I have a problem. Is that right? I'm from Iraq because the situation closed. Iraq's difficult. Curtis and team have got their work cut out for Iraq. Travel is difficult. I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll have to see. Do I work together with Curtis? No, we don't work together. Actually, somebody, I think, yes, one of Curtis's customers basically accused me the other day of having some sort of underhand dealings with Curtis, etc. Just to be clear, and I'm sure Curtis would confirm. I'm not now. I've never asked for any payment. I've not received any payment. I've never got any payments, etc. from Curtis. It doesn't enter my mind. So if you mean, do I work together with Curtis? Am I being paid to recommend his case? No, absolutely not. I work for a living. I don't need Curtis to support my my expenses, as it were. This is not my job. This is my hobby. This is something I do because I want to do it. Nothing to do with my income. So no, I don't work with Curtis professionally in a paid way, as you are asking. I think I have in the background spoken with Curtis and interacted with Curtis and argued at times with Curtis. Provided help to Curtis and the other lawyers. So there you go. Have I talked about DB 2020, dear Simon? Yes, I have. Or I've already said Gomez we're not sure what the date is going to be. Right. I'm going to pick out Curtis's responses here because obviously it's important and interesting to us all. Curtis, I should have invited you to be interviewed, perhaps. The more plaintiffs there are, the more difficult it is for the court to aggregate to ignore aggregate hardship. Absolutely, it becomes a sort of how can you say, as Miss Smith tried to argue, that they're doing all they can when there's so many people being harmed by this? You're absolutely right. I guess having a very big set of named plaintiffs is not only impressive, because presumably, it's not normal to get that many cases together, that many plaintiffs together so quickly, but also it's impressive from the point of view of the judge saying, okay, there is universal harm being caused here. And I hope that can perhaps turn into a judgment that preserves visas apart from the mandamus aspect of the case. I hope that does work out, because there isn't going to be time otherwise for everybody. Okay, so all right, just going to have a quick look down here. Agree, case number is not important as usual. Now all will soon be current. That's correct, exactly. So any case number can join. I'm just picking out your comments here. Oh, and Nikki, one of the prettier previous winners. Not sure if I saw a previous message, but you won DB 2022 as well. That's hilarious, Nikki. Although you're from OC, right? So the chances of selection in Africa are about once in 200 years. The chances of selection in OC region are about once in 20 years. So, it is a massive chance. And of course, to win twice in Africa, for example, is pretty rare. It's 200 times 200. To win twice in OC region is 20 times 20 in terms of a chance, 1 over 20 times 20, right? So it's much more common to get people that win in multiple years in OC. But congratulations. Obviously, you don't need your win. Unfortunately, some people have asked me similarly, can I assign my win to someone else? Can I give it to someone else, a family member or something else? No, you can't do that. So there you go. Okay, so I'm going to call it a day. Hey, Nikki. Thank you again for amazing work. I'm well, thank you, and good to see you. Okay, I'm just scanning down to see if Curtis has made any last points. I think he hasn't. So I think we're good. So I'm going to close this. I've been going a long time. I hope that was useful for some of you. Please give me a thumbs up, like. I do like the like buttons. I do like the subscribe accounts. So if you can help me by subscribing or hitting the like, that would be good. All right, everybody. Cheers now. Bye-bye.